Namaste, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Bharat Varta podcast. The IPL is just around the corner. This is the 13th edition of the IPL. I have with me a couple of very special guests today. You might have heard Abhishek Paul on this podcast earlier. We've covered a couple of episodes on cricket, and he can be called our in house cricket expert. Hi, Abhishek.
Hi, Srivatsa.
We have a debutant today joining us, Mehak Vyas,
I guess.
who is quite active on Twitter and is well known on Twitter and social media for his knowledge of cricket. Hello, Mehak.
Hi Shiraz, how are you?
I'm good. So, guys, let's just start off. Uh, the IPL has been around for 13 years. It's one of the most important events in the global cricketing calendar, uh, and it has given us, both India and global cricket a lot of new stars. So I'll start off with you, Mehak. According to you, what is the importance of IPL to Indian cricket, and not just from cricket, but also from its contribution to popular culture in India?
So cricket-wise, it has definitely shifted the epicenter of the sport to India from what used to be England. I still remember the initial years of the IPL when people used to scoff at the all the sponsor branding and timeouts, and now you see every league copying the same format because they've realized that the audience isn't really as bothered about it as they might have initially felt. Uh, but it's good to see that India took the lead when it came to this, even though the format was invented in England. But as with all things England, the colonies take up those things and become better at it. So I think that's what's happened here. As far as culture is concerned, I think the IPL audience is very different from the traditional cricket audience, and you see this in terms of the participation of young kids, women as well. Um, and also in the way that they consume the IPL. So earlier it was a lot, cricket coverage was very straight-jacketed. That obviously changed as like extra innings, completely changed the format of the pre-show. And now what we're seeing is cricket is being consumed in people's own languages rather than just in English. So on digital platforms, based on what I know, it seems that a lot more people watch the IPL in Hindi, for example. It's something that the average Indian aspires to watch. The average Indian aspires to play now, because earlier you could only have 11 players, making a living out of this. Now you have people like C. Varun who are able to sell their wares for crores of rupees, and youngsters like Yashasvi Jaiswal this year, who can dream big, not just with the India cap, even though that is obviously the highest honor that the cricketers hold. But even if you may not be good enough to play for India regularly, at least know that you're going to be a household name, which is a big thing in Indian sports, right? Because over the years, we haven't really had too many heroes to look up to in the sporting world. So there was obviously Sachin before in Gavaskar, and in other sports we had Leander Pace. But we were always short of our own heroes when it comes to sports. And eventually, obviously, you'd get more and more heroes even outside the world of cricket. But right now, people look forward to watching Hardik Pandya play. Ten years ago, nobody would have even cared about who Hardik Pandya is. But because he's now getting a huge platform and hundreds of millions of people watch him through the course of the tournament, it obviously shows that there is a hunger in India for local heroes, local stories, and I think that can only be a positive effect on the country's culture.
You're on
Moving
mute.
over to you, Abhishek. In terms of world cricket, how do you think the IPL has changed world cricket and also Indian cricket in general?
Sure. So, as Mehak rightly said, uh, India is now the epicenter for world cricket, right, with IPL. And if you take aside the international matches, IPL definitely is probably the biggest tournament that happens every year. And I mean, this year's corona-related situation is obviously a unique one, but apart from that, like every year, IPL had become a sort of a regular part of everyone's summer calendar, right? Starting somewhere in April and going on through May and maybe early June. So, it had kind of become an integral part of the overall cricket calendar, and cricketers around the world value it quite significantly. If you leave aside England, who has their own domestic structure clashing around that time, and probably the touring team for that particular year, other countries, players from other countries would definitely look forward to, playing in the IPL and, displaying their talent in this tournament, right? So that's one thing, and we have seen generally top talent make themselves available, with a few exceptions every now and then, and often they are for reasons of basically protecting their fitness and things like that, because overexposure of cricket is actually a thing these days. So coming to Indian cricket and Indian cricketers, there have been a number of benefits, right? So the number one is that we now have a lot more players who can look forward to make a good living out of playing cricket, and not just the top 20, 25 odd players who are in and around the Indian squad generally. Secondly, it's a great exposure, because young talent is getting to play against really good opposition, or getting to play with really good teammates who are international caliber, whether it is Indian national team players or big players like AB de Villiers or a Shane Watson or a Dwayne Bravo, right? So you get to play with really top quality talent, and then you get a really big platform which is at par with any international game. So that means playing in front of really big audience, or crowds, and then a huge TV audience. So the experience, and often T20 games end up being high pressure games because of the nature of the format itself. So in terms of grooming experience for Indian youngsters, and Hardik Pandya is obviously a very good example of someone who's utilized the IPL in a really good way, and taken leaps forward in his overall cricketing journey. So in that way, IPL definitely has sort of transformed Indian cricket, and mostly in good ways, is I would say. And world cricket in general, I think we are following the franchise T20 format in most countries. It's become a big thing, and IPL is probably the best sort of tournament in that space.
Yeah, I would agree with both of you. I think Mehak made a very good point. For instance, I always think of someone like Rajat Bhatia, who's had a fantastic IPL career. He's been very successful for teams like KKR. But probably 15, 20 years ago, someone like him, nobody would ever have recognized him, right? And you can think of cricketers from the past, say for instance, an Atul Bedade might actually have done very well in IPL cricket, but we know him as someone who at least he was lucky to play a couple of internationals. The other benefit, I think, obviously, is the fact that I think it's kind of increased the level of camaraderie across international cricketers, right? I think that international cricket is not as hostile as it used to be, and players are like, they smile a lot more when they're playing against each other. There's a lot more respect shown on the field, and I personally believe that the IPL has played a big role in that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
so if you recall, AB de Villiers' 100th Test match, which was in
I was there.
Bengaluru,
Yeah,
right? So both of us were in the stadium that day, I believe. So the ovation or the reception that he got was at par with anything which Tendulkar has got throughout his career, right? So, I mean, international cricketers have become really beloved in amazing ways. Like David Warner today is a social media sensation purely based on his Indian fans, right? So, in many ways, international cricketers are even bigger stars today in India, and therefore the cricket world, thanks to the IPL.
yeah. Good points. So moving on, we've had sort of 2 or 3 teams that have dominated the IPL, right? So Mumbai Indians has won the IPL 4 times. CSK has won it, I think, 3 times and has reached the final on another 3 or 4 occasions. KKR has won it twice. So that's 9 out of 12. And, the other teams have probably won it once each. Uh, I just wanted,
I
uh,
think the 5 Hyderabad fans would probably say that their team has also won.
Twice.
Yeah. Okay, that 2 different franchises, but point taken. Okay, they've also won it twice. The point I wanted to come to you, and I'll start with you, Abhishek, is why is it that, for instance, CSK and MI have been so successful in the IPL? You see them in the playoffs almost every year. Chennai has, I think, made it to 7 finals probably.
Yeah.
According to you, what are the factors, because of which some teams are so successful in the IPL?
Yeah, so I think, I mean, this is a question which is kind of subjective and everyone can have their opinion. So I believe, as you said, there are really 3 very successful teams, right? So Mumbai, Chennai, and KKR. So the one thing about Mumbai and CSK that's common is that they managed to get a core of really good Indian players, at least 1, 2, or 3 very big Indian stars, right? Dhoni has been there throughout for CSK. He got Raina, Jadeja, and then at various points in time, different players. There was Ashwin earlier. There was Harbhajan Singh of late. So strong core of Indian players who have big match experience. Mumbai with Rohit Sharma, and then they managed to pick really talented players like Bumrah and the Pandya brothers, right? And so this strong Indian core has really helped at least those 2 franchises. Then I would say that the foreign players, and you get to pick only 4 of them. It really helps if some of those players are match winners in their own right. And so all these 3 franchises have really had amazing foreign players. So if you look at CSK, they've had Dwayne Bravo or a Shane Watson. If you look at Mumbai Indians, they've had Pollard throughout, and then Malinga for most of their tenure, right? KKR has had Sunil Narayan and Andre Russell, who have been exceptional in IPL. So foreign players, match-winning foreign players who have sort of stuck around the franchise for a longer period of time has really helped. And finally, each of these teams has a sort of strategy that generally works. So, for example, the years in which KKR has been successful, I believe they really made Eden a fortress. and they played to their strength. So they played for on kind of slowish pitches, which were sort of spin friendly. So they used that strategy quite well. CSK has amazing batting depth, and even Mumbai in most cases. So they kind of dominate the end overs in both the innings, and that has been the key to their success, according to me.
Mehak, coming to you, I think Abhishek captured like a bunch of different points. But I think one of the things is you encounter a wide sort of variety of conditions, right? In the IPL. I mean, this year is different. We're playing in only 3 stadiums in Dubai, but by and large, you're talking about some pitches in Mohali which will be a bit faster versus say Chennai which turns versus Bangalore which is a batsman's paradise. How do you think different teams who have been successful have sort of countered this either through strategy or the way they've picked their squads and so on?
So the one thing that each team tries to do is they maximize their chances of winning at home, because you have seven games you play at home, and the idea is that if you do well in these 7 games, maybe you win 5 of them, then you need another 3 wins to enter the playoffs. I think there's been only one time when a team finished with 16 points in a 14-game season and failed to make the playoffs. So if you do well at home, generally you will end up in the playoffs. Uh, but conditions, I mean, you can't really control them beyond a point. The two things that I feel Chennai and Mumbai have done really well is man management, and this is something that you hear from their players a lot, where they credit, in case of CSK, they credit Dhoni for it, and in the case of MI, they credit the coaching staff for grooming them. It's one thing to say that a team has quality Indian players, but there's a reason why some teams are able to have these Indian players perform consistently, while other teams do not have that. All of these teams have scouts who go out looking for talent, because they know that this is the most important thing. You have 7 Indians in the 11, and unless you have at least 4 or 5 good Indian players, you don't really have a chance. But the question is, how well can you develop them once you've identified players, right? So, for example, Hardik Pandya made his name in 2016, um, but a little known fact is that MI had their eyes on Krunal the year before. It's just that he got injured and they couldn't pick him. They got him next season, and in 2017 he was the man of the match in the final, right? So they obviously invest a lot in these players. The second thing which these two teams do really well is that they have uh, quality players towards the back end of the innings, whether it's with the bat or with the ball, right? I mean, in Chennai have Bravo and Tahir with the ball, and obviously Dhoni with the bat. And MI had Malinga and now Bumrah with the ball, and with the bat they have the Pandya brothers and Pollard. So they know that these are the most high pressure moments in the game, and it's important to have players who do this job consistently in that stage of the innings. You can't just pack your side with great batsmen who otherwise bat in the top 3 or 4, because a few of them are going to have to bat down the order. And if they're not used to doing that at the international level or at the domestic level in their own countries or in other leagues, it'll be difficult for them to adapt to the situation that well. So I think that's where these two teams do really well. I would say that while KKR have been good since the post Ganguly years, the last 4 years, I think Sunrisers have actually been better than them. Um, they're the only team which has made the playoffs in each of the last 4 seasons. They're also the only team to win 3 knockout games in the playoffs. Since the playoff format switched from semi-final to the qualifier eliminator format. And their strategy is completely different from the other teams. Their strategy is having batsmen quality batsmen up the order and really good bowlers who get them early breakthroughs and Rashid Khan in the middle overs. So by the time you get to the last 3 or 4 overs, the opposition already has too much to make up if they're trying to chase. And it helps them that they play in one of the largest stadiums, so it's easier for their bowlers to come into the game rather than playing at the Wankhede or Chinnaswamy, where any top edge can easily soar over the boundary. So I would say these three are the strongest teams. KKR, I respect them for having the most different strategy in that they know that they're going to go hard from the first over to the 20th. It doesn't matter to them whether they lose wickets or not. They know that Narayan is not going to come off every game, but they'll keep batting him up the order because they realize he's not much use down the order. And obviously they have Russell and Karthik as finishers. But their innings, and it's very different from the Gambhir years when, as Abhishek said, they relied on slow pitches and their spinners to win them games. That's not the case anymore. Now they're relying more on their batting, and this time I think they have Nagar Koti back as well. So I'm really looking forward to seeing their pace battery. Let's see how they do in some of the bigger arenas. Again, I think that should help them in this tournament.
Interesting points. One thing I have always felt is that even though it's the shortest format, you need really good specialists, whether it's bowlers or batsmen, and bits and pieces cricketers don't really work out that well in T20 cricket. So even spinners like Kuldeep Yadav, and you mentioned Narayan, they've done exceptionally well in T20. Uh, Another thing I think is I think both of you covered it, which is backing youngsters and letting them sort of grow up. I still remember when Bumrah came in the first time, the first match he played, everyone was saying Gumrah Bumrah. That was the sort of slogan associated with him. But the team management kind of backed him, and he's now probably the best Indian fast bowler.
He's just the best fast bowler, period. I don't think we need to give the Indian qualifier.
I would personally agree with that. I am a huge fan of Bumrah. Uh, okay, so moving on. This year it's a different format, right? We have it in 3 stadiums in Abu Dhabi. It's kind of restricted. It's going to be a bubble. You would expect, because of the wear and tear, that probably spinners will come in at the later stages of the tournament. So if you were to pick, say, 4 players, two established and two younger ones who you think will break through this season, who would they be, Mehak?
So among the younger ones, I think Shubman Gill is one who, I think he's going to get a chance up the order because they let go of Chris Lynn, and even though Tom Banton is his replacement, generally you don't see a lot of international batsmen succeed from the outset, right? And especially at a tournament this time where they were not going to be playing on small grounds. Both Abu Dhabi and Dubai have pretty big playing areas. So while Sharjah is a small ground, but there are very few games there. So I expect Shubman Gill to do well. And the other one I would say is Yashasvi Jaiswal, who I think the Rajasthan Royals have him. I think he's quite similar to Shubman in the sense that he has fantastic game awareness. So he knows when to slow down. He knows when to go hard. It's very important to bat situationally, and that's something that obviously Kohli does better than anyone else. But these two guys, I think, have shown at least at the under 19 level that they're able to adapt their game based on what's happening, with the pitch, what's happening around them, whether the bowlers have the upper hand, so they know that they need to buckle down. And and once you know that you have only a few overs left and you've seen off the good bowlers, now it's time to cash in. So I think these two guys are pretty good at it. As far as established players are concerned, I think Pollard, uh, he just had a really good CPL. I think he had the second best strike rate in the tournament, and the best strike rate was for a guy who scored 17 runs in the whole tournament. So essentially, he had the
He's the
best
best, yeah.
strike rate in that tournament, and he didn't have a great season last time. They actually dropped him for a few games before bringing him back. And since Malinga is not there, an overseas spot does open up. So I think Pollard should be someone who will probably do well. The other one, say Rashid Khan. Uh, I think the pitches should be to his liking. He was anyway hard to play in India. I think he's going to be even harder to play in these conditions. And because Bairstow is not doing too well right now, I think the Sunrisers will have to rely a little bit more on their bowling compared to last season, when Warner and Bairstow pretty much won half their games in the first 10, 12 overs itself.
Abhishek, your picks?
Yeah, so in general, I think I'm very curious about Delhi Capitals. We'll probably discuss them later. So that's like that's the team I'm kind of looking forward to, because they have a lot of Indian talent, including young talent like Rishabh Pant or Prithvi Shaw. I'm quite curious about that team. But if I have to talk about established players, one player I think for whom the IPL is big is KL Rahul this time. The thing is, he's at an interesting point in his career. He's sort of just got out of the test team while he was kind of hitting his best batting form. And he's shown that in ODIs and T20s for India. It is also the thing that now that Dhoni is out, the keeper slot in the Indian team is now a question mark, right? It's up for grabs.
Abhishek, I think Dhoni is out because KL Rahul is kind of making that spot his own.
Possible. So the point being that it will be interesting to see what he does and what he chooses to do, especially now that he's also the captain, whether he'll keep in all the matches and how well does he do. So it's a big season for him in various ways, right? So the other interesting slot from an India point of view is possibly a backup all-rounder for Hardik, right? So I think there are a couple of players on whom India has sort of banked or tried to put faith, but it's not really worked out. So I'm curious about both Vijay Shankar and Shivam Dube in terms of the pace bowling all-rounder / backup to Hardik. I think the next year's T20 World Cup is still in Australia, right? Or is it?
No, it's in India.
It's in India. Okay. So nevertheless, I think, we have to sort of see how these two guys do. Coming to foreign players, I think Rashid Khan, obviously, as Mehak mentioned, there. One player I'm quite curious about is Nicholas Pooran. He's developed a good reputation as a batsman who can score very quickly. So I'm looking forward to him. I'm also looking forward to seeing how some of the South African quicks bowl, like Rabada and Ngidi. That would be my look forward to list.
Yeah, I would. I don't know if Joss Butler is playing, but if he is playing, then I think he is someone who can change games on his own. He's had a pretty good summer across formats. He's done very well for England.
Incidentally, I was kind of surprised. I was Googling if David Malan is in any squad. I couldn't really find it, and I'm not sure why. So he's now apparently the number
he's
one.
Going to join the Mumbai Indians at some point. Someone will develop a freak injury, and David Malan will join the Mumbai Indians.
I actually, I also think Ravindra Jadeja might actually have a pretty good tournament. Considering what Mehak mentioned, the size of the grounds and the fact that it's going to slow down later. Amongst youngsters, I actually do believe that Prithvi Shaw becomes very important uh, because it's been a couple of years, I think, since he's made his debut, and it's almost kind of people want him to succeed and they want him to do well in at the highest level, but unfortunately he's been injured a few times, because of which he couldn't play in Australia and so on. So it would be really good to see how someone like a Prithvi Shaw fares. Likewise with Shubham Gill, I think a few slots have opened up. Mickey Lynn is moved to Mumbai Indians, so I think Shubman Gill will definitely play higher up the order. And yeah, I think those are sort of my picks in terms of youngsters and established players. Okay, moving on. Just looking at sort of the betting data. I look at betting data as usually a good proxy, to see how people think teams are going to do in tournaments and so on. It's no surprise that Mumbai Indians, Chennai Super Kings, and the Hyderabad Sunrisers are kind of the top three to take out the title, with Delhi being closely sort of in the fourth spot. I know they're a young team, but yeah, I kind of like the way they're
They're a
building
Delhi
that
team
team.
more than a young team. That's what. And I say this as someone who used to be a Delhi Daredevils fan back in the day.
Okay. So yeah, I think let's just quickly go through each team. Before that, just who do you think is going to win? Let's do a quick poll. Mac.
I would say Sunrisers.
Okay. Abhishek.
Unfortunately, CSK.
Yeah, actually, that's my pick also. I would normally have said MI, but this is an even year. And MI has never won, the IPL in an even year. They're for some reason they like odd years. Uh, okay, so let's start with the two teams that are considered the favorites, the teams that have won the IPL the most number of times, Mumbai and Chennai. Uh, Abhishek, what do you think are the sort of strengths of the MI team? Why do you see them reach the playoffs? If yes, why do you think they will make it to the playoffs?
Yeah, so I think Mumbai has probably the best star quality Indian talent. Rohit, Bumrah, and the Pandya brothers are very very strong players in the T20 format. They have a settled team, and if you look at the outsiders, right, foreign players, De Kock and Pollard are exceptional in this format as well. So I think that's where they are very strong. They have match winners through up and down the lineup, right? And they have players like Bolt or McClanahan or Coulter Nile who will sort of complement Bumrah quite well. I think it's only I would say that they are a little weak in terms of their spinning talent, but apart from that, I think that's a very very strong side.
Mehek?
I actually am not sure they will make the playoffs this time. But even if they do, I expect them to be in the eliminator. Obviously, what happens after that, nobody knows. But I don't think after the league phase they will be in the top two. Malinga is not there this time, and even though his skills have been on the wane the last few years, his presence in the field obviously helped a lot of the other bowlers in the way that Zahir Khan used to mentor the Indian bowlers back in the day. So his absence, I think, is going to hurt them. Similarly, for CSK, Raina's absence is going to uh, prove pretty important. And I think Harbhajan is also not playing. So that's two very important Indian players who are not going to be there for CSK this time. I mean, I don't know if Raina makes a WWE style entrance midway through the tournament. You can't rule out anything. But if they don't have him, and I think Ruturaj Gaikwad, who was supposed to be his replacement, is also going to miss the first few games because he tested positive. So I think their batting is going to struggle a little bit. Their bowling is actually pretty decent. Imran Tahir is really good. Mitchell Santner again can chip in. Deepak Chahar is, I think, one of the best new ball bowlers in this format. So their bowling wise, they should be more or less okay, but I'm not so sure about their batting. Um, so that's why I didn't pick either of these two to win the title. Sunrisers, I think they have enough backup, even if Besto doesn't do well, right? So Kane Williamson, even though he has a reputation of being a longer format batsman, he's actually pretty good even in T20 eyes. I think he won the orange cap in 2018. Last year they didn't really need him to do much because Warner and Bairstow were scoring so many runs at the top of the order. So I think he should do well. Manish Pandey again has something to prove because he's fighting for a place in the Indian team. Even though he's done well for India, but there are a lot of other guys who are coming through. So it's important for him to do well, which I think he will. Bhuvi is really good bowler in all formats. Bigger grounds again help him with his knuckle ball. Similarly with Siddharth Paul as well. I definitely think Sunrisers will play the first qualifier and go on to win the tournament. KKR I think have a good chance. I would say if I had to pick four playoff teams, it would be CSK, uh, SRH, KKR, and Rajasthan. I'm not sure RCB will, break their voodoo, even though their bowlers will be really happy that they don't have to play at Chennai. Uh,
Yes.
but they always conspire to somehow lose. And Kohli, I think, in the last few months before the lockdown, wasn't batting that well. So I'm not sure if he's going to be in great form either. Um, so I'm ruling them out. The one thing I want to see more than anything else is Ashwin marketing someone or the other. I think, and for that very reason, I'll be more than happy if Delhi make the playoffs. So that there would be even more controversy. But I think Rajasthan will somehow beat them to the top four.
Yeah, see, I also think that Mumbai is. See, the last time we played in Middle East, Mumbai literally struggled. I think they lost the first 5 games
Five.
or something, right? Yeah, and it was not really good for them till they came back to India. But I think the team is a lot more settled now, even though Malinga is not there. And you do have batsmen who can hit and sort of play both fast bowlers and spin well. Lack of genuine spinning options is going to hurt them. I also agree with that. uh, CSK is a tough one, because the thing is, they somehow seem to pull through. They don't appear to be, the best team.
They have never missed a playoff, right?
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting if they actually do miss out finally. Then we can say that it was all down to Raina.
Yeah, I don't see that happen. I see them somehow sort of stumble over to the playoffs. They'll do it, just because they have so much of experience, right, throughout the team, and experience, is valuable with the
Yeah.
amount of pressure that comes with the IPL. I do think that Sunrisers and Delhi will make it to the playoffs. I think they are kind of the teams that are. Delhi, I would say, is a team on the rise. They seem to improve a little bit, and their recruitment and everything is a lot more sort of spot on now since the Jindals have taken over the team. They seem to have a clear strategy of building a team with young Indian talent. So yeah, my top four would probably be Chennai just about fourth, Sunrisers, Delhi, and either Mumbai or KKR. So it's going to be a struggle, I think, between Mumbai and KKR and Chennai. So it's two out of those three. Delhi and definitely Sunrisers. Sunrisers are, they look a very complete team to me. So Abhishek, what we spoke to you about Mumbai, but who do you think
Yeah, so
your four teams are, and why they'll make it to the playoffs?
yeah, so I think I would go with uh, Sunrisers, Delhi, Mumbai, and CSK. Mumbai, I talked about. I think the interesting team that I am kind of follow is Delhi. So if you see their squad, it's very interesting, right? So they have youngsters like Pant and Shaw. They have Shreyas Iyer, who is now just beginning to establish himself in the Indian team, and they are very experienced Indian professionals, right? Dhawan, Ashwin, and Rahane. So all of them are in sort of different stages of their career with lot to prove and lot to play for, right? I mean, in a sense, the Indian sort of mantra of Kuldeep Chahal being fixed picks is probably over, right, in the national team. And those two places are also up for grabs if, for example, someone like Ashwin or even Jadeja, the previous two are able to sort of outperform them, they could easily be back in the reckoning, I think. So a lot of really interesting Indian talent they have decent seamers. Ishant Sharma bowled decently, I think, last season, especially at the start. And they have Mohit Sharma, Harshal. They have decent spinning options as well, including the spinner from Nepal, right, who's quite an exciting player.
Yeah, Sandeep Lamichhane.
Lamichhane.
Yeah.
I think they are little sort of lacking in the foreign stars apart from Rabada and Stoinis. But so there was, I think there is a genuine question mark if at all they do they need four foreign players, or they could go with a 8-3 or even a 9-2 combination on certain days.
They're not going to do that.
We'll see. But still, I think it's an interesting team, and Ponting as coach is obviously, something to look forward to. I was quite impressed actually when I saw him in that Amazon series. He seemed to be a sort of very inspiring presence in the Australian dressing room, at least. Coming to SRH, I think Mehak talked about them. They're a very solid side. I think they'll miss Shakib Al Hasan, however. I'm not sure why he's not likely to play, but apparently he's not playing. I think their sort of strengths are well known. They have really good foreign players, Warner, Bairstow, Rashid, Kane Williamson if needed, and all that, right? They have very good non sort of India team pace bowlers apart from Bhuvi also. So whether it's Khalil or Sid Sharma or Siddharth Kaul, whoever they pick, their seam bowling is pretty good. I think where they struggle, I feel, is that their Indian backup batting is kind of suspect.
They don't have a middle order, basically.
And I think, as you said, right, so their strategy is to win early, both with the ball and the bat, right? So they're a top-heavy team who do top-heavy better than RCB. So I also think RCB is a top-heavy team, but SRH does it a little better. So yeah, SRH will be competitive throughout. They'll comfortably make the top four, and then after that, of course, it's on the day. And that's where probably a team like CSK or MI has that sort of more match-winning power that sometimes puts them through. I think lastly, talking about CSK, I think Deepak Chahar, as Mac said, is a very, again, interesting player to watch out for. He was just hitting some good form, getting picked for the Indian team, and then he got injured, right? So I think this is the first time we'll be seeing him after that injury. And of course, with him is Shardul Thakur, who, even though I'm not a big fan of, I think Indian selectors do tend to give him chance from time to time. So
I think he lost all fans, on his
after he
debut.
took that the number 10 jersey.
Yes, when he took the number 10 jersey, I think he lost all fans on that day.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think as we discussed at the start, this is basically 3 stadiums and mainly 2 stadiums, right? So as the tournament gets through into the later stages, the pitches should be getting slower, and that's where I think Chennai's batting, which is very experienced, right? So whether it is the Indian players or the foreigners, right? So whether it's a Rayudu or a Kedar or a MSD, Jadeja, Bravo, not sure if Watson will be playing throughout, but they are kind of very experienced to deal with slow and low conditions, and
But that's anyway how Chepauk was for them.
yes.
So
So
it's
I think
if
that's
anything, these
where
pitches will be better for batting than the Chepauk pitch
and the
last year.
Chepauk one. But I feel as the tournament gets into the later stages, if they are not out of the reckoning by them, that is, if they really don't have a terrible start, right? Then I think they get competitive, and they will be a dangerous side at the end, and that's what led me to that prediction of them winning. Uh, but yeah, not as strong as say they were in the last 2 seasons, missing out on Raina and Bhaji.
Okay. So coming to, I think, couple of teams who we haven't covered a lot, Kings 11 and Rajasthan Royals. Both Rajasthan Royals has some very good foreign players, right? Like Jofra Archer, there is Josh Butler, Steve Smith if he plays. Do you think they
Ben
could
Stokes.
be
Ben Stokes.
Ben Stokes?
Ben
He's
Yes,
probably
of
the
course.
most important player.
Yeah, probably the best all-rounder to have, in this format. Uh, how do you see them do, Mehak? Do you think they will turn out to be some sort of a dark horse and make it to the playoffs and then possibly go all the way?
I already picked them as one of my 4 playoff teams, so I have to now make the case for that to happen. I
Yeah.
think their only problem is some of these guys are going to miss the initial part of the season because they're playing in the England Australia series, right? So I'm not sure what the quarantine rules are, but um, Archer, Smith, and Butler might end up missing a few games. I don't know if
And
Stokes has already.
also Tom Curran, right? Who's
Yeah,
also
Yeah.
Tom Curran is probably not going to be one of
Play.
their 4 overseas players, right?
Yeah.
They,
He's not,
like
I
they
mean,
have
with
the
those
most
four,
shots from
I
4.
doubt he will play.
Yeah, so they will definitely miss these guys at the start of the season. Uh, but once they're in the side, I think Rajasthan are going to be tough to beat. Just because Butler is, he can bat up the order, he can bat down the order, um, and he can, like you said, Shivats, he can change the game on his own. So having a batsman like that, like him or Warner, up the order is very important because these guys can, bat through the innings, and I would put KL Rahul in the same category as well, actually. So these guys can either bat through the innings or they can accelerate from the start, depending on what the team needs. Uh, so I think they're going to be difficult to beat. I don't know if they'll be in the top 2 after the league stage, but I definitely think they'll be in the eliminator. Like Unadkat, he seems to show up during the IPL and also does well in contract years. So everyone's going back into the auction after this season, and once teams have decided whom to retain. So this is going to be an important season for him. Again, the slower the pitch is, the better it is for him. So he should do well compared to last season. Um, and I think Yashasvi Jaiswal, if they play him, he might just end up scoring 400 odd runs. Because they've let go of Rane now, and I think they got a leg spinner for him, Mayank Markandeya, who
Yeah.
along with Shreyas Gopal should make a pretty good leg spinning duo. Like Gopal had a nice season last year as well. I think he had 20 wickets. I'm not sure. So these two should be difficult to play in those conditions. Stokes obviously is one of the MVP contenders to start the season. Um, he alone can carry them with the bat to like if they're chasing. And with the ball, I mean, hopefully they won't need him to bowl the final over. If it gets to that, I think they might have a problem. But yeah, I think they're definitely better than Kings 11. Who I don't know where that team is going, to be honest.
So I'll come to Abhishek on that because he mentioned KL Rahul,
Yeah,
Nicholas Puran, and they also have Glenn Maxwell,
correct.
who on his day can destroy any attack. And then you have Karun Nair as well, who's been out of the international scene for quite a while and may actually have a lot to prove. Then there is the X factor of Chris Gale, right? He is also going to be part of Kings 11. So Abhishek, do you see them, sort of upset the whole apple cart and then
Yeah, so I think with Gale in the team, it could go either way, right? So he could play spectacularly, or he could be a total flop. Or the problem is that he could play spectacularly in 1 out of 5 games, and then you keep investing, and he doesn't deliver in say a crucial match. So Gale is a big sort of X factor. But they have a decent squad. I mean, if you look at it, they have decent India batsmen as well, right? And the second string, like Mayank is there, Karun, Sarfaraz, Mandeep. So their India, batting is quite decent. Uh, they have interesting foreign players to choose from. I'm not sure who they will pick. So there is Maxwell, there is Jimmy Neesham, there is Mujib, the Afghan spinner, right? So they have kind of interesting options there, but I'm not very sure on how their sort of lineup will look like. I think they do lack some quality in the bowling. There is Mohammad Shami, but even Shami in T20s, while he picks up a lot of wickets, can go for a lot of runs. So, and then they'll be relying on Jordan or Cottrell, those kind of players to, be their overseas bowler. So I think their batting is quite decent. I'm not very sure about their bowling side. There are some younger Indian players like Ishan Porel, etc., that they have picked. But yeah, I think it's a good batting side. Bowling suspect. I think they have a new coach in Anil Kumble now. I think he's the only Indian coach this season. So that'll be interesting to see what influence and impact he has in this format. But yeah, something to watch out for. But less confident about them than Rajasthan. So Rajasthan, Max picked in the top 4. I did not, but I will not be surprised if they make it. Uh, at worst, they'll be 5th or 6th, I think.
yeah, okay. Which brings me to sort of the last bit for our podcast today. Uh, who do you think will finish in the bottom two? Uh, and pick up the wooden spoon. Uh, and yeah, and why? Uh, yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Okay, I need to go first. Okay. I think it will be Punjab, just because I don't see anyone else finishing last. So by default, I'm picking Punjab to finish last. I'm hoping it's Mumbai, but we know that's not going to happen. I just think uh, they don't have enough to challenge for the title, and usually they start off well, and by the middle of the season, they completely run out of gas. Uh, I think they usually finish with like 5 wins or 6 wins, not more than that. Once in a while, they have maybe 7. I think it's just going to be the same this time. Uh, I don't know if anyone else will have fewer wins than that. It's as simple as they don't have the personnel which matches up to the other teams. I don't know why they let go of Ashwin. I thought he was a decent captain. Um, Now they're just putting too much pressure on Rahul, so he has to open the batting. He has to captain the side, and because Puran is their other keeper, that means that if Rahul wants to relinquish the gloves, then an overseas squad goes towards picking the keeper. Now, if Puran is in bad form, then what do you do? Either you have to drop him or Rahul has to don the gloves again. So that's just too much pressure on Rahul. And I don't think he needed that. I think he needs to focus on his batting because he will be crucial to India's chances in the T20 World Cup next year.
Abhishek?
Yeah, so I think, if you look at the team potentials, I think Punjab is probably a team that will finish between 5 to 8 and more likely in 7 or 8, right? And the other team would be RCB. Now, RCB has a bigger range, so they could, if they click, if Kohli clicks, De Villiers click, and they sort of fill up some of the gaps that we know they've had in the last few seasons, they could make it to the top 4, but they could just as easily perform as per their norm and finish towards the bottom. So I mean, what happens every year is they have that dreadful starts, and then there are equations coming out in Bangalore papers about what is needed now to somehow reach the playoffs, right? So again, I mean, potentially they have a range of say as high as say third or fourth, and then as low as 7th or 8th, right?
Yeah, I would definitely pick Punjab among the bottom two, primarily because I don't see a leader in that team, and I don't see someone. There's going to be too much pressure on Rahul, as Mehak says, uh, and also there is this question about their backup. If someone gets injured, say one of their star foreign players get injured, the backup foreign players I don't think are good enough to play in the IPL. Likewise, I think Rajasthan, while we said could end up in the top 4, if for some reason their top foreign players are sort of unable to make it, there isn't a lot of squad depth,
I think
and also their
one
yeah,
important thing for Rajasthan to remember, for us to remember about Rajasthan, is that uh, they have a very strong English contingent. They've had for a few seasons, and they tend to go away generally in the later part of the regular IPL, which should not be happening, I'm guessing, this year, right? So that would mean that the Butlers and Stokes will be available right till the end. So that's a difference and an advantage for them this season. If at all there is any one season that squad can win it, it should be this year, right?
it is, but there is no depth beyond sort of Butler, Stokes, Smith, and Archer. I think if possibly
So
one, or
so
even if
Sanju
one.
Samson is also there, right? So he's a big player for them actually, and so they've brought in Uthappa. So it's not. I would say that they're definitely better than Punjab.
Yeah,
And,
yeah. So I was
and
looking
So
at the
it's just
two
they're
bottom
really
spots.
reliant on their 4 overseas players, and
Yeah, they're
if
heavily
any of
reliant on
them
their
gets
stars.
injured or doesn't do well, then obviously it's going to be difficult for them to make the playoffs.
Right. So we usually like to end on an optimistic note. So I will come to you, Abhishek, first. What is it, that you are looking forward to in this season's IPL?
So for a start, I'm looking forward to watch cricket, right? So it's not every year that I'm looking forward to IPL. Often, I kind of skip the first part of the tournament and then, only get excited when it's closer to the end. But with COVID and everything, right? We've been starved of cricket in general. So I'm kind of looking forward to watching this year's IPL, and I'm looking forward to seeing how some of the younger Indian players do, whether it's a Shubman Gill or a Rishabh Pant or Prithvi Shaw and etc. So Riyan Parag, for example, in Rajasthan, he's an exciting player. So yeah, I'm looking forward to young Indian players. In for a particular team, I'll be looking at Delhi Capitals with particular interest. But yeah, generally just hoping that things go well. We don't get too many COVID cases, which sort of scuttles the tournament and all that. So looking forward to it.
Mehak?
Yeah, I am looking forward to matches not dragging on for 4 hours. That is one thing. So on the field, I'm looking at that. Off the field, I'm actually very interested in seeing how it's consumed on digital platforms this season because it's behind the paywall this year, unlike the previous seasons. So it's going to give us a sense of the subscription appetite for the Indian cricket fan. Um, Hopefully, we see a lot of people watching it. My KRAs depend on that. So, so yeah, I think these are the two things that I'm looking forward to. And obviously, Abhishek said, let's hope that there aren't too many COVID cases. The last thing we want to see is any player or support staff falling ill in the middle of this tournament, or even otherwise.
Yeah, I am also looking forward to watching some, Indian talent come through, especially with the T20 World Cup, next year. It'll be good to see some youngsters come through. So well, that's a fantastic note to end the podcast on. Thank you, Mahek, and thank you, Abhishek, for joining us for this special podcast on the preview to the upcoming IPL season.
Thank you for tuning in. This podcast was brought to you by the team at Bharat Varta. If you liked this podcast, then don't forget to share, subscribe, and rate us on your favorite platforms. We're available on Anchor, Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, Breaker, YouTube, and a host of other platforms. We started Bharat Varta to facilitate long-form discussions on politics, policy, and culture. We don't necessarily endorse anything that was said in this episode. If you do wish to offer us any feedback on the content or anything else, do reach out to us on social media or get in touch with us on our website, www.bharatvarta.in. The links are in the description below. Thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, stay safe, take care, and Jai Hind.